Good morning, guys. I just started preparing. We're playing against the UAE today. They have Salem Saleh on board one, so this is kind of like their superstar, who I think had at least almost 2,700. And the rest of the boards are the boards where we have to make points. So from board 2 to board 4, we are clear favorites. So I will definitely try to score a win. I have the white pieces as well. So I'm just now trying to see what I can come up with. I'll also go to my coach pretty shortly, to our national coach. So let's see, and let's see what we will figure out. And I will see you shortly before the game to give you a brief update. Hi guys, I just came back from lunch. Now some final preparations. We have to leave at 2 p.m. already because the bus transfer takes some time. So I will see you after the game and with the recap. Hopefully it goes well. Wish me luck. What's up, guys? I just finished my game and I won, which I'm super happy about because it seems like I will be the only one in the team who won, and therefore it will be the deciding match point. The last board is still playing currently, but it looks like it's also going to be a draw, and board 1 and board 2 also ended in 2 draws respectively. So I'm pretty happy. Try to catch some dinner now, probably no gym tonight because it's already pretty late. My opponent fought really well until the end. So yeah, but I will still, of course, see you in the recap. So see you then. Welcome back, guys, to the recap of round number 2 of the Olympiad. And as I already mentioned before, I won my game, and we then in the end won the match 2.5 to 1.5. So it was a very close match, and I'm very happy that I could help the team to win the match, since I was the only one to score the decisive result. So I went for knight f3 on the first move. My opponent played pretty classical with d5, g3, knight f6, bishop d2, and e6. And after castle, bishop e7, c4. After black castles, again, basically the most classical system black could play. Now d4 would transpose to the Catalan defense after d takes e4, for example. The main line, queen c2, a6. This is one of the theoretical main lines. Also, black could play c6 here. So there's lots of theory here, but in this game I wanted to play this line with b3 here, which still keeps the option if I want to go d4 or not. For example, if black would go for this triangle setup now with c6, then I often have the idea to play d3 followed by e4, which is at least a bit of a different type of position, which I hoped he wouldn't be as familiar with. But he went b6, which is, in my opinion, one of the best moves. Black can also go for c5 or push d4. d4 would aim for some sort of Benoni position, but he went b6, going for the fianchetto himself, and bishop b2, bishop b7. Now I took on d5, which again is one of the moves here. Also e3 could be played, followed by queen e2, knight c3, with a more type of slow play. But also in my game with c takes d5, this was something I've already tried a couple of times. And here, in my opinion, knight takes d5 is probably the best move when black is very solid after d4. White always has a small edge and can try to play for something with these 2 fianchettoed bishops, but black has both c5 or knight d7 here, which are both very solid for black. So I was very happy when he took e takes d5 back, because after d4, now at least we got some imbalance here with the Carlsbad structure, and I always like to play these positions. I already have quite some experience here. He went rook e8, knight c3, knight bd7, rook c1. I played really fast all of these moves since it just looks so logical for white. Now he went a6 to prepare bishop d6 without allowing knight b5. And here I went e3, still pretty logical, bishop d6. And now I went for knight e2. The point of knight e2 is that I want to prepare knight f4 followed by knight d3, and then I can jump with preferably the knight from f3 to e5 and possibly occupy the weak square on c6, and just to occupy this kind of outpost on e5. He went c6, which was pretty surprising to me. I thought he should try and go for c5 possibly if he could. But c6 simply I didn't really fully get, because it just blocks in the bishop on b7. Knight f4 and queen c7, another surprising move to me, because it just steps into this into my rook's eye on c1. But still, black's position is very solid, and there was no easy way to break through right away. I went for rook c2, which I already thought about playing before, even here. And the point of rook c2 is just I want to play queen c1 and then target opponent c6. And also one idea which I had was bishop a3 to exchange my, I would say, weaker bishop on b2 compared to the more active bishop on d6. So these were the two ideas with rook c2. Rook d8 was played, and now queen c1 as planned, queen b8, and now I went for knight d3 because after bishop a3, first of all, I thought he can just simply ignore it, and if I take on d6, I'm slightly better, but it's still not the end of the world. But what I did not see here how to proceed was after bishop c7. It looks pretty wrong for black with these bishops here, but also my bishop on a3 doesn't do that much now, and I did not see how I can proceed here. The computer now says that knight h4 is a good move. Apparently g5 is not working because of knight takes d5. Okay, that looks very, very complicated and not clear at all. So yeah, I was not sure how this position would be from a practical point. So I just went for knight d3 right away, and then I wanted to play knight e5. So I went knight e4, and now rook d1 first, queen a8, and now I went knight to e5, and now the pawn on c6 is also weak, so he has to take on e5, basically, otherwise I would just take the pawn on c6. He took now d takes e5, important. If knight takes e5, then after c5, I did not see what to do here. Again, the computer says that bishop takes e4 is an option, but I did not really think about this. And otherwise, black has some options with c4. When after d takes c4, b takes c4, d takes c4, all of a sudden the bishop on b7 and the queen on a8 would open up, and I was not entirely sure here. So I went for d takes e5, bishop f8, and now f3. The knight has to go. He went to g5. If knight c5, then I wanted to take and go bishop d4. And these sorts of positions are really good for white because black doesn't have any counterplay with c5 in most cases, and I will just push my pawns here, f4, f5, with a very strong attack for white and also a big positional advantage. So f3, knight g5, I went h4, knight e6, and now f4. So if I would have gone f4 right away, then I was a bit bothered by knight e4, when his knight is at least pretty active on e4. So therefore, I first kicked it out with h4, and only then went f4. And now I'm already hinting at f5. So he played c5, which at least does something. Like he has some ideas with c4 possibly, but he's just not fast enough. The computer suggests g6, but during the game I thought this also looks very, very dangerous for black. I can simply prepare f5, and with g6 he's also kind of weakening his king more. The square on f6 is also weakened. So I thought that c5, at least from a practical point, is logical. And after f5, knight c7, I went knight f4. Apparently, objectively, it's already winning for me, which during the game I was not sure about. He went d4, e takes d4, bishop g2, rook takes g2, knight d5, and still the position is really good. During the game I was not entirely sure how it is. Here I was calculating for quite some time. Then I was happy to find this move king h2, which simply steps out of this diagonal here, so that bishop c5 will never come with a pin or with a check later on. At first I was also thinking about knight takes d5 here, with the point that if he takes with the queen, then to go king h2. But here I thought that he has rook takes e5, if I'm not completely wrong, and this position I wasn't sure here if I'm even better anymore. At least yeah, now the material is level. So I think king h2 was a good move. Now he took on d4, bishop takes d4. I was also thinking of rook takes d4 here for quite some time, but after rook e5 I did not really see how to continue. Knight takes d5 I was calculating, and after rook e takes d5, rook g4 is what I thought. When after rook f5 I thought I have bishop g7 and queen h6. But yeah, this looks still like it's winning for me. But then what my problem was that he could take with this rook, and now if rook g4, then rook takes f5, and at first I thought I can also take here, but then in the end I saw that he has queen f8 here, and I'm suddenly a piece down. So this was my my calculation here. Let me see if I missed something. Rook g d2 apparently is winning. I don't fully get it. Okay, just knight takes f4, I have rook takes d8.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, and otherwise I will simply win some material with queen d1 to come. Okay, I did not really see all of it, but I went bishop d4, which is also good enough for a bigger advantage or winning advantage even. He took on f4, queen f4, and this pin looks a bit scary, but there's nothing he can do actually about it. I can simply step away with my rook and then just move the bishop. If queen d5, I thought important that I have rook d2 here, and then I can again move the bishop, and the pin is broken. He went rook d5, I went rook f1, just stepping out of this. Maybe rook e1 would have been a bit smarter to support this e6 push, but I thought that maybe the f file will open up anyway, so the rook on f1 would be placed well. He went bishop c5. I did not exchange bishops because I thought that that my bishop might be a bit more powerful if I go e6 later on. He went queen d8, now e6, and if he takes, then I thought both f takes e6 or f6 should be winning for me. So he tried to keep the position closed with f6, and now I went b4, which I'm not entirely happy about because it places the pawn on a black square and it will be potentially weak later on. But I did not really see how to proceed here. Black controls the d file, and I did not see how I can break this control. Computer says queen g4, queen e4 are all same evaluation and plus 2.5 for me. But I wanted to kick out the bishop and then to have rook f2 and then to fight for the control of the d file. Queen d6, and now I went a3, which this was probably the worst move from me in the game. I should have just taken here, and after bishop d6, now rook d2. And I was thinking about this, and I just didn't want to give up this pawn, but I'm just way too active here, and I thought that rook c8 maybe has some counterplay, but simply g4 and then g5, and yeah, this would have been a much easier way to end the game. He cannot take the rook he cannot take the bishop important, because then I have e7 in the end and I'm winning. So a3, still I have a big advantage, and rook d8, now I went h5. I thought he could have tried h5 right away, because then my pawn on f5 will be a bit weaker and I cannot support it with g4 easily. So I thought this would have been a better way to defend, but he went rook d8 first, now h5, and now b5. Computer wants to go for some active counterplay right away with g6, but the position is probably still lost for him anyway. So I went b5, completely fixing my pawns here, which I thought is also logical, but now I simply played pretty slowly, brought my king, and then I wanted to exchange a pair of rooks just to eliminate any counterplay. Rook e8, now g4, rook d3, rook f3. Pretty logical here, bishop d8, bringing the bishop to b6 or to c7. And now rook g3 I was very happy about, because if king e2 right away, I thought that rook g1 could come, and now might still be good, but now his counterplay comes pretty fast, I thought. And if I go rook g3 first, which I did in the game, then after bishop c7, which is the most logical move probably, then I would have gone king e2, and I'm just attacking the rook here. And if he takes, these bishop endgames are always winning for me. I'm just a very powerful pawn up here. And if you would have moved the rook, let's say, to b1, then I thought I have rook d3, and with rook d7 to come, I thought I would be winning here. He went rook b1, now king e2, simply rook c1, and now bishop d4. I brought the bishop to c5, and here I have king e4, also activating the king, and at the same time protecting the pawn on a3 with the rook. And yeah, he tried rook e2 check, now rook e3. If king d5, he has rook d2 and this pin with bishop b6, so I would have to go back, most likely. So rook e3, again, the bishop endgame is lost, even now with the king coming in. No chance for black here. So he tried rook g2, but now bishop c5, and now I can simply give this pawn and run in with the king. If he goes rook g5 here, he went bishop e7. If rook g5, then I thought I could go e7. The bishop moves, then king c6, and let's say bishop e5, and then rook d3, and I simply have rook d8 check, and on the next move followed by a promotion. So therefore we went bishop e7 to stop e7 from my side, but now king c6, and now my plan was to go rook d3 and rook d7, and I'm forcing him now to take on c5. And after bc5 he already resigned, because my pawns are just too powerful, and my king will probably step to the side and then the pawns will come, or king d6. Black's king is also already kind of mated, so for example if rook h5, I can just take on g7, and then king d6 could is a major threat. And if the rook goes here, for example, now king b7, and then the pawn will just promote. So I think overall a pretty decent game. I think my technique here could have been a bit more improved. For example, here, yeah, this queen d6 would have been a way to finish the game off a bit quicker, I would say. But still, I'm pretty content, and I'm even more happy that it helped my team to win the match. And also the pairings for tomorrow have been confirmed, and we're playing against Hungary team number 1, which will be a very exciting matchup. They have the superstars Richard Rapport on board 1. Then they have Peter Lecko. Let's see if he will also play. Came back from retirement just for the Olympiad. So it will be a super exciting match. Wish me luck for it if I'm playing. Let's see. And yeah, see you in tomorrow's recap. And I hope you enjoyed today's edition. And thank you for watching, and see you then.